Welcome to AutoCAD for Beginners. If you have zero experience and don't know where to start, then this is a great course for you. My name is Thomas Soltrin, and I've been using AutoCAD for 25 years. I started using AutoCAD in 1996 when I got my architectural degree. I since have been working in the architectural field, and I primarily use it to create architectural plans and 3D models. AutoCAD is used in industries worldwide by architects, project managers, engineers, graphic designers, city planners, and more. AutoCAD has become the standard when it comes to these industries, and understanding how to use it can help you master other softwares as well. In this course, we will start with a practical example of drawing a room and go over the most commonly used tools along the way. We will go over dimensioning, adding text, and printing your plan to scale, and more. The first two lessons will go over these basics, and as we move forward, I'll be adding more advanced lessons. So make sure to follow this course and stay connected. If you are looking for an official certification in AutoCAD, this course will go over several of the items covered on the exam. As your instructor, I want you to succeed. If you have any questions, simply send me a message and I will answer as soon as possible. Are you ready to learn AutoCAD? If so, I will see you in the AutoCAD for Beginners Part 1. Welcome again to AutoCAD Lite 2021 for Beginners. Before we get started, let's go over a brief little history of AutoCAD. AutoCAD began its first release in 1982. Since then, every year AutoCAD comes out with one or more new versions. Now, don't worry about it because every version carries over functions and commands from the previous version, usually making your design process easier. I first started using AutoCAD in 1996, and that was right when AutoCAD 12, 13 were available, and I've really jumped into it in AutoCAD 14 where it started getting into 3D capabilities. And every year since, it just keeps improving. Now, if you don't have AutoCAD yet, just go over to autodesk.com and you can just go to products. And for this course, we're going to be using AutoCAD Lite, but if you have the AutoCAD, the full version, it should work just the same. And you just go here and they will allow you to download a free trial, or if you're ready to purchase, you can select one of the options below. Now this is a US based page from Autodesk, so if you're in another country, your page may look a little different. So if you haven't already, go ahead and download your version of AutoCAD, and I will see you in the next lesson. While using AutoCAD, you're going to want to use a 3-button mouse with a left click, a right click, and a scroll button. The scroll button is going to be used quite a bit. Now that you have downloaded AutoCAD, let's go ahead and double click to open it up. Once you have it opened, you should see a screen similar to this. Let's go ahead and click over here on the Get Started button. Now that we see this screen, what we want to do is let's zoom out a little bit by using our scroll button. Now I want to erase this, so to do that I'm going to type E, enter, and I'm going to use the left mouse button, click once, drag my mouse, click the left button again, and then hit enter, and it erased it. Now let's take a brief tour of our menu window here. Up here on the top we have our menus, our home, insert, annotate, parametric, view, manage, output, collaborate. Underneath it we have our ribbon, or I believe this is called panels as well. And here we have some of the basic commands that AutoCAD uses. And down here we have what is considered our model space. This is where we will be doing all of our drawing. Down here on the bottom we have our command line. Now the command line, you can click and you can left click and drag your mouse and release it wherever you want it, or you could double click, or let's see, we'll bring it down actually, click and left click, bring it down, and you can dock it so it takes up the whole space there. Doesn't really matter, wherever you want to have the command line. This is where it will tell you all the functions that you are using. So if I'm using the erase command, E, enter, it will kind of prompt you as to what you should do next. So now I hit erase, it's asking me to select the objects. So now I have to do what I did, where I left clicked and selected objects, but I don't have any objects. So I'm going to hit escape to exit that command. And I can hit escape again, and now I'm out of the erase function, and now the command line is waiting for me to give it a command. You can also just click on these buttons here and enter into a different command. Now before we start drawing something, let's go ahead and set the units for our drawing. So to do that, I'm going to type units, enter, and this window pops up. So I'm going to make sure that I'm in the architectural type units, and everything else I'm going to leave the same, this decimal degrees, precision 0. Here I can adjust the precision that I want to be drawing in, and 1/16 is fine, and everything else, insertion scale, inches. So if you're in another part of the world and you're using the metric system, you may want to change this to something else. But here I am in the US, so we use the architectural units. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So in this course, I want to be able to teach you by doing some examples of something you may actually do in the real world. So let's draw a room, just a square or a rectangle room. So to do that, I want to start with the line tool. So to do that, I'm going to go over here to line, and click left click once, and here you can see the command line has been activated. It says line, that's the command I'm in, and it's saying to specify the first point. So I'm going to go ahead and just click anywhere in my screen here, doesn't really matter where. And I'm going to left click once, and then you can see that it is trying to draw a line. Now as you can see here, it's going in every direction, but I want it to go completely horizontal. In order for me to do that, I'm going to hit the function 8 key, or F8, and it locks in what is called ortho mode. So ortho mode keeps everything on 0 or 90 degrees or 180, 360. So it keeps everything really straight. So I'm going to go ahead and move my mouse in the direction that I want my line to go. So I'm going to go in this direction, and I'm going to type in 10 feet. So to do that, I'm going to hit 1, 0, and apostrophe is for feet. And I'm going to hit enter. And then I have drawn a 10-foot line. And I'm going to hit escape to get out of this function. And why can't I see it? Well, because I'm zoomed in too close. So to zoom out, I'm going to use the scroll button. And now I'm zoomed out so I can see that. Now another thing I can do is pan in my model space. To do that, I'm going to press down the scroll button, and then you see that it converted that icon in the middle, the crosshairs, to a hand. So I'm gonna, while I'm holding the button down, I can drag my window wherever I want. So I'm gonna click right there, and then I can zoom in and out to that 10-foot line that I just drew. Okay. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to draw a line continuing from this endpoint vertically 90 degrees. So to do that, I need to have my object snap settings set. So to set those, I'm going to go to O snap and click enter. And that is going to open up this drafting settings box. So I want to make sure that, and you may want to make sure that you have the same selections checked. So you want endpoint, midpoint, center, geometric center of a circle. That's good. Nodes. Some of these you're not going to use initially, but they may come in useful later. So I'm going to go ahead and leave all these checked. Just make sure yours is matching and click OK. Now when I go back into the line function, and I could do it two ways. I could click line here, or I can simply type L for line, enter, and now it's asking me to specify the first point. But now I want it to continue off of that end, so I'm going to drag my mouse until it snaps to that endpoint. And then I'm going to left click once, and I'm going to drag my mouse vertically, go 90 degrees up. I'm still in that ortho mode, and you could toggle ortho mode on or off by pressing F8. So F8 is on, or that's on, that's off, on. So it just toggles on and off. Now I'm going to make sure my mouse is going in this up direction, and I'm going to type 12 feet, and that apostrophe is for feet. Enter. And then I'm going to zoom out using my scroll, recenter that, and let's go back over here 10 feet. And then I'm going to drag my mouse down, and there you can see it's going to snap to that end. I'm going to click, and then now I've closed in all my walls. Congratulations, you have created your first shape in AutoCAD or room. But before we actually go out and celebrate, let's add a little bit more detail to this drawing. Okay, so we have our line drawn out here, but in the architecture world, we have walls that have thickness to them. So to add some thickness to this, I'm going to type O for offset, enter, and I'm going to offset this wall 4 inches. So I'm going to hit offset distance 4, enter, and then now it's asking me offset, select object to offset. So I'm going to select this line. I'm going to click once, left click once. I'm going to drag my mouse in the direction that I want the offset. So I'm going to offset it to the inside of my room. And then since I'm still in this offset function, I can just click the next wall, drag my mouse in the direction I want it to go, left click again. Now I want to clean up these wall corners. So we have these lines that are crossing and I don't want them to cross. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways we can clean that up. So I'm going to zoom in to a corner here. The first one I'm going to do is called trim. So I'm going to type in trim, enter. Now it's asking me to select the objects that I want to trim. So I'm going to left click once, drag my mouse where it intersects all of these lines, click again, and then I'm going to right click once. So now it's going to ask me what do I want to cut out of this selection. So I'm going to select these lines that are extending beyond. And just like that, I've trimmed and cleaned up that corner. So that's one way of doing it, using the trim command. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to show you another way. So we can use the fillet command, or fillet, I'm not sure how you say it. It's just F. And then I'm going to hit F, enter. And then it's going to ask me for a radius, or it's asking for several things, but I want to add the radius. So I'm going to hit R for radius. And then I'm going to set it to 0. It's actually already at 0, but I'm going to go ahead and click 0 again, enter, and that's it, right? So now it's asking fillet, select first object. So I'm going to select one line, and then I want it to fillet to the next line. And because the radius is 0, it's going to make that a 90-degree turn. So that's the second way of cleaning up the corner. And now I'm going to show you the third, which is chamfer. And I'm going to see, let's see, C-H-A, yep, there it goes, chamfer. And you can also click here, and it'll enter into that command. And again, I'm going to change the angle, and I'm going to set the angle to 0, and I hit A for angle, then set to 0, hit enter again, and then I'm going to click one line, click the other, and there we go. It used that command to clean up the corner. And then if I want to repeat my previous command, I can simply click enter, and it'll jump into the previous command that I had, which was chamfer. So I'm going to go ahead and click one line and click the other. And let's click escape to get out of all commands. And there we have all of our walls nicely cleaned up. Okay, so let's add some dimensions to our walls. To do that, let's go over to the annotate menu and go over here to dimensions, and where it says standard, let's go ahead and left click. And I want to create a new style. So let's go over to manage dimension styles, left click, and I'm going to click on new here, and let's go ahead and call this new dim style and click continue. And we're going to change a couple items on here. So first, let's go to lines, and everything here I think is fine. Later on we can go over changing colors and line types, but for now I'm going to leave it as is. Symbols and arrows, I'm going to go ahead and change this to architectural tick. And let's go to text. So here we can leave it on a standard text, or we can create our own text. So I'm going to go ahead over here, and I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to call this one dim style 1. Okay, and make sure you have it selected. And here we can change the font name. So I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to go ahead and type A to get to Arial text. And there we have Arial. Font style, I'm going to keep it regular. The font height, I'm going to go ahead and make this 5 inches. To do that, I'm just going to type 5. And I think I could leave it like that, and it'll go to automatically to inches. Or you can type 5 apostrophe or quotation marks, and that's inches. So that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and click apply and close. And then text style, let's go ahead and select that new one that we just created, dim style 1. And then let's go to the next item here, which is fit. Let's go ahead and change this to 24 on the scale for dimension features. This use overall scale of 24. Let's go to primary units. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to architectural. Leave it at 1/16. And everything else, these alternate units, tolerances, I'm going to leave the same. And let's see if everything's looking good here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and click OK. And we have that set to new style. I'm going to hit close. And let's go ahead and draw dimensions. So to do that, I'm just going to click on this first dimension style here. And I'm going to click on this corner to the next corner. And just drag that mouse up, left click once, and there we've created our dimension style. Now, one thing I want to change is I want it to say 10 foot 0 inches. So to do that, let's go back to our dimension style. Let's go to manage dimension styles. Let's go ahead and select that new one. Let's go to modify, and where it says primary units, 0 suppression, I don't want it to suppress the 0. I want the 0 to show. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK and click close. And now it says 10 foot 0 inches very clearly. Now let's add another dimension. And right now I'm in the linear dimension tool. So either one, if you click, is the same. So if I click here, it's going to give me the same function. So I click on that endpoint, drag my mouse to the next endpoint, and bring it out, and it's at 12 foot. Now, one thing I don't like is I don't like that the text is not being aligned with the dimension style. So we can adjust that by going back to our dimension style, manage dimension styles. We're going to modify it, and let's go back to text. And here we can see where it says text alignment aligned with dimension line. And we can go ahead and click OK. 10 foot by 12. Okay guys, so you have successfully created your first room in AutoCAD, dimensioned and everything, but we want to print this out, right? So there's a couple of different ways we can do that. We can print it out directly from our model space. So to do that, I could go to home, I believe. Let's see if there's a print button. Or we can go right over here to this icon, print plots, same thing, print plot, same difference. And because I know everyone has different plot settings, we want to print as a PDF. So to do that, I'm going to click over here on the name of our printer, and let's go to DWG to PDF. And as a default, it's going to give us an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So the next thing I want to do is what to plot. So I'm going to click here, and I want to window around what I want it to plot. So I'm going to click left click, and I'm going to left click and left click around that whole area. Now right now it is fitting to the paper. There is no scale. So if I hit preview, let's see what it looks like. And there we go. So we have our walls printed out, dimensions. So I can print this out by right clicking, hit plot, and I would just be able to print to wherever I want. So my desktop. So I can print it out, save it, And there we go. We have our first drawing printed out. Now, if I want this printed out to scale, what I would have to do is I could go to plot again, or I could simply type plot, enter, and it'll bring up my plot window. Now, what I want to change here is instead of fit to paper, I want to specify a scale. So I'm going to go to here to scale, and let's try 1/4 inch scale. And there it scaled it in this little preview as to what it would look like, or the area that's going to take up in our plot window. So if I go to here, let's go back to DWG to PDF, and we are at a 1/4 inch scale. Let's preview. The annotation scale is not equal to the plot scale. Do you want to continue? Yes. And there we go. So we have our drawing printed out to scale, so you can actually plot this on an 8.5 sheet of paper and use a 1/4 inch ruler, and it would be 12 by 10. That would be correct. And we can pick whatever other scale dimensions you want. So you can go to, as long as it fits in the paper, or it doesn't even have to fit in the paper, it'll just be cut off the screen, but you can see what would better work for your situation. So that would allow you to print it out to an actual correct scale. And then once you have your settings, and let's say you want to save this setting, just hit apply to layout, and you can cancel. And then whenever you go back to plot, it'll bring up that last setting that you had. So I can hit preview, and it'll show that all the time. So that's how you print it out to scale. Now, the next thing I want to show you is this is in model space, but what if I want to work in what they call a paper space, where I want to create a nice little border around it or something like that. So I can go over here to the architectural title block, and there's nothing on there at the moment, but let's pretend that there was a border on here. And what I want to do is, let's go ahead and right click here, and let's go to Page Setup Manager. Okay, so what this is doing is this is setting up a paper space, and that's exactly what it means. It's like this is the a representation of the size paper you have. So currently this is showing a plot size of 24 by 36 inches. I can modify that to a different size paper. So let's go to modify, and that's fine. Let's go ahead and we're going to set up a DWG to PDF, because that's going to act as our plotter. And I'm going to change the paper size to ANSI 8.5 by 11, so 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And then I'm going to say I want it to print the layouts. Yes, we can go ahead and preview, and it's going to show us that whole page there. And okay, everything is good so far. This is just setting up the page. I'm going to click OK, and we're going to enclose this. So now this should be representing a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. But where's our drawing? We want our drawing to be in there. So I need to create a viewport or a multi-view. So I'm going to hit MV for MView, enter, and then it's going to ask for a shape. So I'm going to left click once and drag my mouse, left click again, and there it basically creates a window into my model space. So if I double click, it activates that window, and I can zoom in and out, and I can pan around to wherever I want that to zoom into. So let me double click out of it, and I'm going to select it by clicking once. Now let's say I want this to be a certain scale. So I can go down here, and I could click this once, and now it allows me to kind of set some preset scales. So let's go to 1/4 inch, and it's going to automatically zoom in to a 1/4 inch in relative to that 8.5 sheet of paper. So now let's go to plot, and everything is set up for that sheet of paper. It's on landscape. That's why the paper is kind of tilted that way. So I hit preview, and there we go. We have our drawing, our walls printed out on an 8.5 sheet of paper. And whenever I'm ready, I just hit plot, save it wherever I want, and that's it. And let's see, there it goes. There you have it. You have successfully printed out your room that you drew in AutoCAD. How to add some text to this room. So to do that, let's go ahead and click here, and I'm going to type in MT for multi-line text, enter, and I'm going to draw a window. So I'm going to left click and left click again to kind of create a window box, and then I could type in whatever I want for my text. So let's call this my first room, or my first CAD room, and just left click out of that somewhere. And we can add some options to this. I'm going to left click once, and it allows me to kind of adjust that window box. And what I want to do is let's double click, and it gives us some options now up here. A bunch of options just popped up, so I can change the style of font that I want. Oh, make sure you have all your letters selected, and you can start changing whatever font you want. And I'm going to leave it on that Arial. Let's go back to the Arial, wherever it went. Arial, and let's underline it. So let's click here for underline, and let's see if we can get it to center justified right there. And let's go ahead and click out, and I can make it snap to each side, so that way I know it is exactly in the center of the room. And I can hit M, enter for move, and left click once, right click once, and now it's asking for a base point, so it's for me to drag. So I can click left click once, and I could drag it wherever I want. If I click F8, it removes it from the ortho. Click F8, locks it into the ortho, and I can just kind of center it in that room. Let's hit escape. Now let's go back to our paper space, and there we have our room again. Let's go ahead and plot. Let's go ahead and type plot, enter. Let's go ahead and click preview, and there we go. Now we have our room dimensioned and labeled. So just like that, you have created your first room in AutoCAD. You're on your way to becoming a pro with AutoCAD. Okay guys, so let's talk about layers. Here we have our layer options box here. And so far we've been drawing in the 0 layer. So all these lines that we have are in that 0 layer. Let me hit escape. I just selected those for no reason. Okay, so let's create some different layers. So I'm going to go ahead and left click here to open our layer properties box, hopefully. And it's way over here on my other screen. There we go. So we only have 2 different layers in our window at the moment. We have our 0 layer, which is kind of the default layer. You don't really want to draw in 0 layer, but you know, in this case we did. And then here we have def points. Def points will never print out. It's just something that you can draw things that you don't want to come out when you print. So you can put that on def points layer. So let's create a new layer. To do that, I'm going to click here on this check mark for a new layer. Actually, that's to make it current. Here we go, new layer, and let's call this our wall layer. Enter, and let's change the color. So I'm gonna click and drag these windows here. Kind of see a little bit more what these are saying. Okay, so all right. So now we want our wall layer. We want it to plot out, so make sure that is selected. And if I double click, it makes that the active layer. And let's go ahead and click on color, and we can change the color of it. So I'm going to go ahead and select our index color 3, which is this green. Click OK, and let's go ahead and close out of this. Now let's say I want to move all my wall layers to that, or these layers I did here. I want to move them to the wall layer. So I'm going to left click and select all of these, click and drag. So I'm clicking all of those. And right now, since they're selected, it's showing that they're all in the 0 layer. So it's easy to move them. All I have to do is click here, move to walls, left click again, just hit escape, and I already moved them to the correct layer. So what about dimensions? Let's create a layer for dimensions. So I'm going to left click here. Let's go ahead and create another layer. And I call this dimensions. Enter. Do we want it to be green? Let's not do green. Let's do this index color 9. Click OK. And let's create another one for our text. And I'll just type text, enter, and we'll go ahead and click here. Let's go ahead and make this yellow and OK. All right, so let's go ahead and close out of our layer box here. And to move it to that layer, I'm going to go ahead and click here. Click here, move it to text. Hit escape. Let's select our dimensions and move those to dimension layer. So now everything is on a separate layer. Now if I want to turn off a layer, I could go here and I can say, you know what, I don't want to see my text, so I can click off. And let's see, it didn't do it because, why did not do it? I think it's because it's the active layer. Not sure about that. Let's back out. Oh yeah, okay, it did turn it off. And then the same thing I could do with dimensions. Let's say I don't want to see my dimensions. And there we go. So we turned off our dimensions and our text. So however you want, you can turn these on and off. You can also freeze them, which is kind of the same as turning off and on, but sometimes if things are in groups, you may want to freeze it rather than turn on or off. It gets a little complicated, but just know that they kind of work the same. And the reason why it didn't turn off right now is because it is the active layer. AutoCAD does not like turning off the active layer. So let's go ahead and move this to 0 layer since nothing is on there. And I could go here and let's go ahead and freeze our wall layer. And there we go. We can't see that. Another thing we can do is we can lock our layers. So let me click out of here. Let's go to click on this lock. And what it does, it kind of dulls the layer in your view. And if I wanted to erase everything, so I want to hit E for erase, enter. Let's say I select everything within this box and right click, it deleted everything except for my walls because they're locked. So locking a layer prevents you from deleting it. And I just hit Control Z is an undo command. So definitely want to write that one down or remember that, Control Z, undo. So that's a brief overview of layers. That's really how most people use layers. You just want to keep things on different groups, different layers. And I drew everything on 0. You never really want to do that. So really you should set up your layers first and move to the current layer. Let's say if I wanted to draw walls, just make sure that is the layer that is active in this window here. Or I could type in LA and it'll bring up that layer window, and you just double click to make whatever layer you want the active layer. So I'm going to go ahead and X out of all that, and there we go. So now we have some different layers in our drawing. Okay, now let's add a door to our room. To do that, I'm going to use the line tool. I'm going to go ahead and click over here to line. I'm in the wall layer, and I'm going to snap to the midpoint of this wall and drag my mouse this way. And I'm actually going to zoom in, drag it to the midpoint of that other. So it's just, it's a 90-degree line. Just hit escape. And I'm going to hit O for offset. And I'm going to offset 3 feet. So 3 apostrophe enter. And that gives me a 3-foot offset. So I'm going to click once here, drag my mouse in the direction I want that offset, left click once, and there I've offset a line at 3 feet. Now I'm going to trim this out by typing trim and enter, trim, enter. I'm going to left click once, highlight all those walls, left click again, and then I could hit enter. And now it's going to ask what lines I want to trim out. So I'm going to left click once, left click again, and there I've cut out that opening for my door. Okay, so now I want to draw a door. So what I'm going to do is, let's create another layer for doors. Let's go to layers. Let's go ahead and create another one. Let's call it door. Enter. And I'm going to give this a different color. Let's give it magenta. Click OK. Escape out of that. And draw a line. Hit L, enter. And I'm going to snap to that corner. Oops, I'm not in that layer. I forgot to go to the layer. Let's go to door. And hit escape. Hit L for line. I'm going to draw this 3 foot out. And let's go. Before I do any offset, we'll hit O for offset. Oops, O for offset. Let's type in 1.5 inches. Enter. And I'm going to click and offset this direction, 1.5. Hit L for line, L, enter. And I'm just basically going to connect these ends. Let's go over here, hit L, or repeat line. So what I did there is I right clicked. Sorry, that was a habit. I should explain things when I do it. So if you right click, it kind of gives you the option of selecting some recent commands. So I'm going to say repeat the line command, do left click, and basically it puts me in that command again. So I can select the endpoint to endpoint, hit escape, and there I have a door. So I want to create an arch now. So I'm going to use a circle command. I'm going to type in C for circle, enter, and by default it's going to ask me for the midpoint of the center of the circle. So I'm going to click once, left click once here, and I'm going to drag the mouse out till it hits that other side there, left click again, and now I want to trim this out. So I'm going to hit trim. I want to select this line and this line, hit enter, and then I want to cut out that piece and escape out of that. And there you go, I've created my 3 foot door. Now a 3 foot door is a pretty common thing that I'm going to want to use again. So I want to create this into a block or a template that I can insert a time and time again into my drawing. So to do that, I'm going to create a block. So I'm going to type in block, enter, and it brings up a box here, and it's asking me for the name of my block. So I'm going to say, you know what, this is a 3.0 by 6.8 door. And I'm going to click, well actually before I click OK, it's asking me a couple of things. I can specify the base point of this. So I have to select the objects, and that gives me some other options for annotative stuff like that. I'm going to leave these alone. These are the only two I want to mess with. Base point, want to make sure that's checked, and I want to select the objects. I'm going to go ahead and click here, and let's see, convert to block, yes. Everything else, inches, everything else is okay. So click OK, and specify the base point. So I'm going to select right here, and then it says select the objects. So I'm going to select all of these lines that I drew for my door and click enter, and I believe that's it. It said it found 5, and I believe it created our block. And if we click there, we can see that this is now a block. Now what I want to do is, instead of this single door, I want it to be a double door. So I'm going to hit offset, enter, type 3 feet, enter, click this line, offset it to the left, click again, and let's go ahead and hit trim, enter, select this line, right click, trim out those pieces, and let's go ahead and erase this middle piece as well. Okay, now I want to insert that door that I just did. So I'm going to hit I for insert, and let's see what happened. Oh, that did not work. So let's go to insert block. Actually, I can select it right there, so that's really convenient. Let's go ahead and drag it over here. So it's asking me for the point where I want to insert it. So I want to click here, and that's fine. Okay, so it's already in there, but it's facing the wrong way. So I want to mirror this the other way. So it's a mirror. I'm just going to type in mirror, or MI for short, enter, select the object, right click once, hit that midpoint. I'm going to drag the mouse in the direction that I want that to mirror for that mirror line, and I'm going to left click once, and then it's asking me, do you want to erase the object? So it'll give me the option to create a new one or just flip the existing one. So do I want to erase source object? Yes, I do. So I'm going to hit enter, and there we go. Now I have my double 3.0 door in my room. And to save your file, what you have to do is go over here to the AutoCAD Lite logo, click here, and you can hit save or save as, and we just want to save it as a DWG file, and just find a location wherever you want to save it, and we'll just name it my first CAD drawing. And here you can change the version of AutoCAD you want to save it to. So if you're transferring and sending it to other people, you may want to go to a lower version. If not, you may want to keep it at the latest version available here, which is 2018. Even though we are in AutoCAD 2021, it still saves it down so that other versions can open it up. So I'm just going to leave it down to 2010 and click save.